Hello and welcome to NewsClick, this program with real news. Today we have with us Commander Atul Bhardwaj, who is at the Institute of Chinese Studies. We are going to discuss the Foreign Minister of China's visit, Wang Yi's visit to India. Atul, this has been a visit which doesn't seem to have got much publicity, but do you regard it as a reset of India-China's relationship, considering the heat that was there generated on China apparently having stopped India's nuclear suppliers group membership and India's response on the South China Sea?
Partly, his visit was not mainly for these reasons actually. He's come in here because, his first stoppage, if you see, was in Goa. And that is significant because the Chinese President Xi Jingping is supposed to be coming to Goa in October
for the BRICS meeting.
BRICS summit. So, he had come to basically oversee the arrangements that are there, the administrative part of it. It is in the second half of his visit here that he came and met our foreign minister here and other dignitaries.
Including the Prime Minister.
Including the Prime Minister. So, in that sense, China is an important country and India has some issues with China, and they did discuss those issues.
You know, it's interesting that the kind of warmth which we expected to see consequent to President Xi Jinping's visit in Ahmedabad, where all this bonhomie took place on the banks of the river Sabarmati and so on, got washed out pretty quickly. And after the nuclear suppliers group deliberations where India held China to be responsible, then India's response on the South China Sea Accord, and now the kind of issues also being implicitly raised on the China-Pakistan corridor. Do you think we are seeing the rise of tensions between India and China continuing?
Currently, one doesn't see any reset of the relationship. If you see the entire NSG issue, the entire blame has actually been put on China, as if China is the only country that has stalled India's progress into NSG, which is not a fact, as has already come out. Most of the countries are opposed to it, primarily because first of all, India was not even discussed in that sense in the NSG meet which happened.
It was not on the original agenda.
It was not on the original agenda actually. So, this whole hype has been created, even much before the NSG meet actually happened. There were reports which came out that China has agreed to support India, and immediately after the meet, then there were reports that China has dished India. So, this whole atmospherics were created, somehow there is some level of I would say there is a reluctance on part of India to get into a warm relationship with China. China at the moment does not see itself, equates itself with India. It sees India largely as a country which, the way it is operating with other countries, the way it is expanding itself with other countries, it sees India in that particular realm. It obviously wants India within its own orbit, which it is creating now, which is very different from the American orbit. So, it wants India in that particular orbit. India is acting a little tough, of course.
I would like to discuss a little more about the nuclear suppliers group issue, because somewhere in the Indian discussions, it is being forgotten the nuclear suppliers group was created against India, that India is not a signatory to the non-proliferation treaty, and therefore, we need to create a boundary within which India must be kept and therefore should not be able to trade on nuclear goods. Partly it was relaxed because of the India-US nuclear deal and what the nuclear suppliers group agreed later. But even today, the nuclear suppliers group its existence is on the non-proliferation treaty. So, there are questions that have been raised not only by China, but others as well, that how do you accommodate India and yet keep the non-proliferation treaty part of it alive? This is one issue. Secondly, what is India's relation to the non-proliferation treaty? Does it accept it to be an unequal treaty as it has always held, or says it is unequal, but as long as we get space in the NSG, we are okay with this unequal treaty? I think that's also not been spelled out.
Yes, that exactly has not been spelled out. India's stance has actually been ambiguous in this respect. On one end, because of our civil nuclear military deal and our relationship with the United States, India thinks that it is somewhere near there to occupy the high table, on the nuclear high table, but that's not actually happened. And there are, as you rightly said, that the problem is exactly of the NPT. The energy, and that is what China has been saying this. He says that primarily it was the only issue which was discussed in the NSG meet was whether non-NPT members can become a part of the whole game or not. And most of the countries are, since as you rightly said that the very basis of NSG is NPT, the membership within the NPT. So, to change that particular law within the NSG would require time.
Coming back to the other issues, which is the one that also includes China, is really India's issue with Pakistan. Now, India's relations with Pakistan has soured. Again, the warmth which was shown by inviting Nawaz Sharif or Modi breaking his journey with what's called the Pappi Jhappi meeting that he had with Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. That warmth is also gone, and now we are seeing a lot of tension between the relations of India and Pakistan. Do you see this mention of Balochistan, Gilgit, etc., as also part of the India's looking at China and in Pakistan's economic corridor?
Oh, certainly, the whole issue is involved in this. Firstly, I would like to say that the entire foreign policy of Modi administration has been has not been consistent, and the inconsistencies in that foreign policy are now coming to the fore. You see blow hot, blow cold. One day you go and decide to land in Pakistan, cut the cake with Nawaz Sharif, the other day you are doing something else. You take this issue of Balochistan itself. In 2009, when Manmohan Singh actually went to Sharm el-Sheikh and just mentioned the word Balochistan in the joint statement with Pakistan, there was so much of hue and cry raised by BJP on the entire issue. And so much so that most of the government officials were also ready to distance themselves from this particular joint statement. It said that, we are basically admitting that we are interfering in Balochistan. Now, here is a Prime Minister who's stood up from the ramparts of Red Fort and announced that he is the Messiah of the Baluchi rebels, as one would say. Now, this has long-term implications, because this has actually, it has turned the Indian foreign policy upside down, because till now we have been maintaining our stance has been that we are different from Pakistan. Now, we are trying to equate ourselves with Pakistan. Our entire foreign policy has been to dehyphenate ourselves from Pakistan. Now, with this actually move, Modi has hyphenated us more and more. It has made us look much smaller on the global high table.
In international affairs, you rightly said this has made us look smaller. But I would say there is a consistency in Modi's foreign policy. It's predicated on the belief that if we act tough, everybody will fall on their knees and seek for forgiveness of some kind. And the policy of this kind, which is based on bluster, is the one which is failing. So his belief that if he doesn't embrace and act strong, then the other countries like Pakistan, China will somehow accede to what India is saying, is actually an ideological belief, and that's what is driving this foreign policy.
That has been the ideological belief, and the people who are actually guiding the foreign policy in the Modi administration, I think are more of not really seasoned diplomats. It's been guided more by frontier officers. During British time you had these frontier officers, and those who were really involved in border issues and creating that entire great game and all that history.
Intelligence apparatchiks, as it were.
Yes. So that they are guiding the foreign policy, and they think that we are playing the fast chess, like Vishwanathan plays, that he wins what do you call that, lightning chess game. You can't play a lightning chess game when you are not that powerful. Pakistan doesn't listen to you because you are not that powerful. Powerful in the sense economic power. You are not an economic power as yet, not that big an economic power to make an impact outside
China's
your
GDP
realm.
is 5 times ours. So
China GDP it's a reality. On the other hand, if you see, there is a long term, the China-Pakistan economic corridor which is being built, which goes along this Gilgit region, right up to Gwadar and all that.
And that's Balochistan.
That's Balochistan. So why is India opposed to it? The whole issue is, at the moment India is not in occupation, or India is not in possession of that particular territory. Now all that is being built is an economic road or a railway line. Now we are opposing that particular line from Xinjiang, which will come through Gilgit. There is a history to the whole thing. From Xinjiang we had fantastic relationships with India before the British left, or even till the 1940s. There was trade which happened. All Xinjiang, which is basically a Muslim area, Muslim dominated area, from there the Muslims used to come to Ladakh. From Ladakh they used to go to Kashmir, and from Kashmir then they used to go to Bombay for their Hajj. And all along, or they used to go to Gilgit, and from Gilgit to Karachi, and from Karachi they used to go by ships to for their Hajj, and they used to bring a lot of goods, and there were a lot of trade happening. For example, in 1920 itself there was 20 lakhs of trade which was happening. So, but then after the Russian Revolution, the British again raised hyped up this entire threat from Russia coming in, and then again to it communism was added. So this whole trade, actually then they started curtailing this particular trade. Now if you see, because of that, that was our basic link to entire Central Asia. The entire region could have been conjoined in a fantastic manner like that. But now Kashmir is all boxed up. In fact, if we are to look at releasing the Kashmir problem, we need to think in terms of opening up.
So essentially this is the Kashmir issues getting linked to India, Pakistan, China issue as well, which is of course the original problem. But the problem used to be in India and Pakistan. Now China is getting added to it because of the economic relations that is taking place, particularly with Pakistan. And a part of what you have discussed earlier is this One Belt, One Road project that China has, in which this Gwadar route is an important element.
This is an important element because here it brings, basically it is in India's interest. Why it is opposed to it, I don't understand. It should actually allow some routes to go through it. If these routes are opened up, it opens up whole new vistas for trade with Central Asia, with Europe. Now how is it in our interest to close these routes? It was in British interest, or for that matter the Anglo-Saxon interest, to close these routes. It when these routes were being closed immediately after the Second World War, or after in 48, Nehru and Sheikh Abdullah went right up to Ladakh to make sure that these routes are kept open. So the whole issue involved here is that the foreign policy needs to be imaginative, needs to be rooted in history. It needs to see what is in India's interest.
Thank you very much for being with us.